My fellow Americans, nasaan na ang mga trabaho na dapat ay sa inyo? Nasaan na? Alam nyo, in the past, lagi kong binabanggit ang tungkol sa pag-export ng mga crony businessmen na yan ng mga trabaho papunta sa mga mahihirap na bansa kagaya ng Pilipinas. So ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin ang pag-import. Oo, ang pag-import. Teka, maingay. So ngayon, pag-usapan natin ang pag-import ng mga crony businessmen na yan ng mga employees mula sa mga mahihirap na bansa kagaya ng Pilipinas. Pag-usapan natin yan. May mga kakilala akong Pilipino na nurse sa Pilipinas na intentionally imported to work in the US for cheap labor. Nasa Amerika na sila ngayon. Ang sweldo nila $17 per hour. Fixed yun I think 5 or 6 years yung kontrata nila. Pero yun nga, sa loob ng 5 o 6 na taon, fixed yun na $17 per hour. Magkano na ang starting salary ng mga nurse ngayon sa Amerika? Yung mga US citizen yung mga US citizens. Magkano? $70 per hour? $80 per hour? Tapos yung mga imported na Filipino nurse, yung mga Pinoy na nurse na pinadala sa Amerika for cheap labor, kumikita lang ng $17 per hour. Ang laking diferensya, di ba? Napakalaking diferensya. So kita nyo, no? Yung $17 per hour, napakaliit nun. Kumpara sa $70 to $80 per hour. Ang liit, di ba? Super liit. Kaya eto nga sinasabi ko sa inyo, Filipinos steal jobs that were supposed to be for the American people. Those Filipinos are exploited for cheap labor. The husband of my cousin, who's an engineer, was imported from the Philippines to work in the US. He is getting paid with a fixed salary of $5,000 per month. The engineers that are US citizens, who I personally know, are getting paid no less than $12,000 a month. You see, my fellow Americans, you are losing your jobs to my fellow Filipinos from the Philippines. You are losing the jobs that were supposed to be yours. Yes, my fellow Filipinos steal your jobs. You see, I have nothing against capitalism. It's crony capitalism that I despise.
Mark said, quote, I was watching and listening to Joe Biden's speech last night. He was talking about American jobs made in America, American products and services that are made in America. I'll be honest with you, my fellow Americans. I couldn't stop laughing, and I was also pissed at the same time while listening to his rhetoric fantasy. If he's serious about jobs in America, then he should sign an executive order banning outsourcing of American jobs overseas. The heck, man, what is left for the Americans? Many jobs were outsourced, and will continue to be outsourced to third world countries for very cheap labor. Where are the jobs that were supposed to be for you, my fellow Americans? Then, outsourced to poor countries like the Philippines for a very cheap labor cost. You see, my friends, I am pro-America and for the American people. It's the corruption, exploitation and lies that I hate, no, not the United States and its people. And to my fellow Filipinos. The heck, man, you are all exploited for cheap labor. Remember, you don't owe them anything. It's them who owe you a lot because of your slave-like wages. Down with crony capitalism. Unquote. Mark said, quote, "Whenever I call my bank, I talk to a Filipino call center agent. Whenever I call my credit card company, I talk to a Filipino call center agent. Whenever I call my cell phone carrier, I talk to a Filipino call center agent. Whenever I call my internet provider, I talk to a Filipino call center agent. So where are your jobs, my fellow Americans? Where are the jobs that are supposed to be yours? They are gone. The jobs that were supposed to be for the Americans were outsourced to third world countries like the Philippines. The jobs were outsourced for cheap labor, so those crony businessmen can save huge amount of money. Workers from third world countries are exploited for cheap labor, yes indeed. My friends, I have no problem with capitalism. It is the crony capitalism and crony businessman that I despise. Unfortunately, people are driven by greed, and that is the reality." Unquote.